Coming up on today's show, I'm going to be discussing Flynn Downes. Could he go out on loan to Southampton? And former Chelsea man Denis Zakaria, could he be East London bound? That is all coming up on today's Lunchtime News. I'll see you in a minute. We are going to start with Flynn Downes. Reports are suggesting Southampton could make a move for Flynn Downes. Now, this came out sort of the back end of last week, and we've had interest of a sort of potential loan deal for the midfielder. Now, he came into the club as a lifelong West Ham fan, as a midfield option for David Moyes on a more rotational basis at first, and he hasn't really burst through and been able to get in to that starting first 11. And towards the back end of the season, he sort of drifted off a little bit. He started well, he impressed in his early games in Claret and Blue, and then he sort of tailed off, didn't really make the impact in the games that he did play in Europe and the odd Premier League game. He didn't really make that impact as big as possible and as big as we would have sort of liked for him to come in and really, I don't know, sort of give us that option to change out Soucek and to put Downes in there. That was the sort of option that we could have tried to portray towards the back end of last season. He was tried and tested in various different positions. I sort of remember at some points last season, he was tried a little bit further up, playing as a more attacking midfielder. I think he even went out on the right wing at some stage against that Liverpool game away at the start of last season. I think it was a night game, and he was being played out on the right wing at some stages. So he was definitely tested in the very few number of Premier League games in different positions. I think Moyes still doesn't probably know his best position. Moyes hasn't probably tested him enough to sort of consolidate his sort of big strengths in big games, like sort of in the Premier League. His main position, you probably say, is sitting, but then again, he was tried in a more attacking role as well. He didn't really play as many games as perhaps he would have liked last season, but of course, with the imminent departure, as we well know, of Declan Rice, which is likely, then he could play a bigger role in David Moyes' midfield next season. He did make, in fact, 21 appearances last season. I'd be interested to know how many starts that was, because he came on several occasions to sort of tie things up or to add an extra man to that midfield. And he sort of, he didn't do much wrong, but he didn't do much to catch our eye and to go, he's a real quality player. So at the moment, definitely a fringe player. Would I want him to go out on loan to Southampton? With our current situation, I'd say no. I think it's a key season next season, especially with there's been murmurings of Soucek that might want to leave the club, as well as, of course, Declan Rice probably leaving the club. I think it'd be silly to let go Flynn Downes as well, because then all of a sudden, with Lanzini gone as well, we're left with no midfielders. So I think at the moment we've got to keep hold of Flynn Downes, because he could play a pivotal role in our midfield next season, dependent on who we bring in, dependent on the signings that we make, So at the moment, if Southampton come in with more interest, I think we've just got to fend it off and got to ignore it at this current moment in time until we really know the status of Declan Rice, until we know the status of our midfield, to know our midfield situation, to then sort of make a judgment and make a judgment to whether he will be playing first team football next season. That's dependent on whether we bring in players, whether he'll be a fringe player again, whether he wants that, whether he wants to play first team football. Will he be prepared to drop back down to the Championship again with the Saints, who you'd expect to be pushing for promotion, but you never know. It's a difficult league to get out of the Championship, and Southampton on paper they'll be pushing, but they've got a huge rebuild there, a new manager coming in. We don't know what sort of Southampton side will come out of that Championship. So it wouldn't surprise me if they don't come straight back up. So Would that be an option that Flynn Downs would be prepared to drop down to? I'm not too sure. And I don't think at this present moment in time, David Moyes will be at all interested in letting go Flynn Downs from our current setup, with the situation and parameters and sort of issues that we could have facing us in the midfield areas, with not many midfield options available. And talking of midfield options, next up, I'm going to talk about João Palhinha then. So João Palhinha, we've heard, is West Ham's number one target to replace Declan Rice. However, valuations do differ between the two clubs for the midfielder. Now this is an interesting one because we've established Palhinha as our target if Declan Rice goes in the coming weeks. And Fulham have replied straight off the bat with putting ludicrous valuations onto, I think he's Brazilian, onto the Brazilian midfielder. Now that's well out of our range. We've had 90 million as a valuation. We've also had 50 million after that. I think Jack Rosser from The Sun said that he still could be an option if we put around 50 million pounds on the table. Now, of course, we're going to have to overpay for a midfielder this summer anyway, because clubs are going to be quite smart. They're going to know if this Rice deal goes over the line, we're going to have an influx of money coming in, and clubs are going to put the money up 10 or 15 million quid because they know we've got the money, and they know we probably need to spend the money to get ourselves out of issues with squad depth and midfield options. So if clubs are smart, we know what they're going to do. We know they're going to put the price up a little bit more than they would than any other club this summer, and we've got to be wary of that. We've got to know our limit on players. We've got to know how much is stupid to pay for a player, but then again, we've got to know that we need to get players in, and we've got to get players through the door, because we don't want to be left with a week or two left of the transfer window, or a week or two left until the Premier League season kicks off, and we haven't got 2 or 3 midfielders there. We're left with very weak, very unestablished options for our midfield heading into a Premier League season where not only in the Premier League have we got our normal 38 games, we've got the Europa League again, which is a step up from the breeze that we pretty much had last season in the Conference League. It's going to be more difficult next season, despite no matter who we play in the group stages, they're going to be difficult games, and I can't stress that we're going to need squad depth there. We're going to need players to come in and do a job properly in the Europa League, because we're going to be playing teams that are better, that have got more European experience, that aren't going to be pushovers next season in that European competition. So we can't do what we did the season before and just trust about 12 or 13 players. If we want to have a good go at the Europa League next season and maintain a decent run in the Premier League, then squad depth is a necessity. Squad depth is needed at the highest level, and I hope David Moyes' team, the new sporting director we're bringing in, technical director Tim Steidten, hopefully he will be joining us very shortly, we're hearing, but we need to be aware of the situation we're in and aware of the players that we do need to bring in. Having said that, 90 million is ludicrous for João Palhinha. 50 million is still a little bit expensive, but push comes to shove, I think we could and should pay that money, because I think he's a really good player, and there's very minimal midfield options out there currently. Apart from Ward-Prowse and Palhinha, not many are sticking out to me going, he's a brilliant player. So unless we're going to dive into the unknown that aren't Premier League proven, the couple of players that we've got there, those are 2 of the options that are outstanding there, and I can't really see many more. So João Palhinha is definitely the front runner, but we're hoping we can get Fulham down to a more realistic and more friendly price for the midfielder. Next up then, my final topic for the day on the Lunchtime News is about Denis Zakaria. Now this surprised me when I saw this towards the back end of last week. Fabrizio Romano has reported that West Ham are interested in the Juventus midfielder Denis Zakaria. He will leave Juventus this summer, but there are many clubs interested. So he was on loan at Chelsea last season, and Chelsea haven't got the deal over the line to sign him on a permanent basis. So Juventus have stressed as well that they don't want him to stay at the club. They want him to go straight back out and leave the club on a permanent or again on a loan basis. So he won't be a Juventus player next season. That's what I'm trying to say here. And we've expressed our interest according to Fabrizio Romano. Now, Chelsea had a dire season last season. They brought in a load of players that not many people have heard of, and they didn't gel, they didn't stick, and they didn't perform on pretty much every level. But one player that they did say was a shining light and was a very good player who they did sign on loan was Denis Zakaria. He was a player with pace, with a bit of fight and with a bit of go in him, which is interesting him, and it looks like we've come into him, come in here and we've shown our interest. We've learned of what Chelsea have said, and we could try and make a move for Denis Zakaria. Now, it would excite me because of what Chelsea fans have said. Exciting player, that could add some things that we currently don't have to our attacking options. A bit of pace, a bit of flair, a bit of attacking nous to go and to not be scared to take to take defenders on. And I think that's what we need, just some more options, not to have two players that we know are going to play on the wing and that's it. We need to have options that are better and at the same level of the players that are starting week in, week out. That's a sign of a good squad depth and a good squad that's ready for any challenge that can be sort of put their way in a whole long, year-long season. 60-game season. We're going to need players that are at the same level on the subs bench. Denis Zakaria could be a very, very, very good, astute signing, whether it's on loan or a permanent basis. I don't think Juventus will want too much for him. So that could be something that we could pursue towards this transfer window. Helen, I hope you're well. Helen says, hate this time of year with all the transfer rumours, really gets on my nerves as we rarely get the ones we need. And of course, everyone knows we will have the right money to spend. Exactly. That's the factor that we haven't had in previous transfer windows. Clubs knowing that we've got a lot of money coming in there, despite the instalments, there's still going to be a lot of money coming through the door for the Declan Rice transfer. So clubs are going to be aware of that. Clubs are going to know and put the price up for these players. So that's why I fear, and especially with our slow-moving tactics in the transfer window. David Sullivan's still on holiday on a 440 grand a week yacht somewhere in the middle of the ocean, so he's not worrying about anything. Don't expect too much to be done this week because he's sunning himself on a yacht with his partner. So we don't seem too bothered at this stage. Of course, there's still 60 odd days left of this transfer window. There's still plenty of time, but we've seen this time and time again. We'll be sat here in early stages and went, we don't need to worry about it yet. And there's an added element to it this summer, is that clubs are gonna make it difficult for us to sign players, and we are going to need to sign players. That's a given. That's a necessity. We've got a squad now that is currently nowhere near good enough to go out and to fight a Premier League, Carabao Cup, FA Cup and Europa League campaign that could reach, upwards of 60 games next season. The squad we've got right now is not ready, and we know, extra players currently are going to leave. There's question marks over players like Gianluca Scamacca. Are they going to be really with us next season? So it's obvious that we're going to have to sign players. We're going to have to make 3, 4, 5 signings to get our squad up to the level that it needs to be to fight this properly, to have a good go, to have squad depth that's that's good enough to fight a Europa League campaign. That's going to be difficult. That's going to be hard. Of course, we're going to have injuries along the way as well, setbacks that need to be met with players that are good enough on the bench, players that can walk into this side and not leave a gaping hole without the player that has been injured, suspended, or ill for whatever reason. So that's the situation we'd ideally want to get ourselves in. Will we get ourselves there? I don't know, but signings like Denis Zakaria, signings like João Paulinho could get ourselves on the road to getting ourselves a good, substantial, ready squad for the new season. We need to start off well. We need to have a positive impact in the early stages of the season. A few new signers could get the fan base up, could get us excited for what could again be a really exciting, well anticipated season with Europa League football back at the London Stadium after the first one, European away days for the fans as well. And let's just hope the players can meet the fans' excitement with good players, with good quality, and real good intent there to have a good go at all competitions on all basis, and be effective in the Premier League and not be fighting a relegation battle at the same time as being in a European competition. Helen says, "Was just about to say about our transfers. Sully is away on holiday. Can Kretinsky take over negotiations?" I'm not quite sure what role Kretinsky plays, to be honest with you. I don't know whether he's pumped in a lot of money. I don't know whether he has, a big say in what happens in terms of appointments and signings and transfers. But I expect he has some sort of role in it. I mean, I think he's a majority shareholder. So it's not just Sullivan standing on his own 2 feet here, getting things done. You should expect Kretinsky. He was at the final. He was celebrating. He was in the stands of his home country in Prague. So maybe we need to see a bit more of impact and sort of effort in there from Daniel Kretinsky. Could we see him making an impact and giving Sullivan some support and getting some deals over the line as well? I don't know. It's an interesting topic. Does Daniel Kretinsky have the expertise and have the sort of willingness to go out and help Sullivan and get this team to where it needs to be ahead of the Premier League season? But will these signings fit our system? I mean, that was the $1 million question coming into this season, and until the last few games, the answer was no. So not only have we got to sign players that have got quality, but we've got to sign players that are going to fit the way David Moyes wants to play. And that was the obvious issue that we had last season with bringing loads of fancy players in that didn't fit into Moyes' system. That didn't help things at all. And we need to be wary of that. And we need to make sure that we make signings that are going to fit in and mould the way David Moyes wants to play, because otherwise we are once again shooting ourselves in the foot. P-Gaz, no transfer, same old squad, 23-24 season. I think that's the fear that we all have, is we know how slow and lackluster we can be in the transfer market and leave it late on and end up not getting anything done. We tried, they will say. And that's just a fear that we have with clubs that are going to be extra difficult with us this season. We need to get on the front foot and make signings quickly and effectively, 100%. Jack Levin, thank you very much indeed for joining us as well. So let's sum up what we've discussed on today's show then. So reports are suggesting Southampton could and have shown interest in our midfield option, Flynn Downs. Of course, the lifelong West Ham fan, joined the club last summer, didn't really have an impact on the first team, came off the bench on several occasions, started a few games in different positions, and was a key role and prominent figure in our European campaign, especially in the group stages and early on in our knockout campaign. So could he go down to the South Coast? It would surprise me. It would surprise me if Flynn Downs makes the step back down to the Championship, because I think he could play a role in our midfield that could be lighter next season without Declan Rice and maybe a couple of other options as well. João Palhinha, we now know, is West Ham's number one target to replace Declan Rice if he does leave the club as expected this summer. Valuations are well apart between West Ham and Fulham, but there are a bundle of clubs interested in the Brazilian midfielder, but valuation currently is around £90 million that West Ham are quite rightly branding ludicrous, and we are hoping to get that down to around the £50 million mark and get a astute and quite expensive but effective option, in my opinion, Premier League proven, very good player deal over the line. And finally then, Denis Zakaria, a player that played at Chelsea last season and was one of the very few shining lights at Stamford Bridge, according to Chelsea fans last season, will be moving from Juventus this summer, and West Ham are one of the clubs currently interested in the signature for Denis Zakaria. So thank you very much. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Thank you very much indeed, everybody, for watching. We'll take some of your final comments. It is very early days in the window, but we've seen this too many times. Curtis says, madness if we let him go. I think that's correct with Flynn Downs. I think it would be strange with our current situation to be, willingly letting him go, especially after Lanzini's already left the club. Flynn Downs out on loan, yes, it would get him a bit more experience, but he's already had the experience of the Championship, so he probably doesn't need that again. So I'd be incredibly surprised, baffled, confused, and probably a little bit frustrated if we let Downs go with our current midfield options we have there. Jack says, I wouldn't worry, just the Rice scenario is getting more bizarre. by a day. Have sort of slowed up. We're waiting for Arsenal's bid. That's why I haven't included it in today's lunchtime news show. It's been a miracle. I haven't talked about Rice properly because there's been no more movement. There's no City bid. There's no Arsenal bid to talk of, and it's all gone a bit quiet over the weekend and into this Monday. So yeah, we'll of course keep an eye on it as we always do. Helen says, surely with Rice going, he will get more chances to play. I feel Flynn Downs going to Southampton is wrong. I agree. Yeah, I don't think that's wrong. I 100% agree with that. So Flynn Downs hopefully will be staying at the club. Denis Zakaria could be an option, and João Palhinha is a player that I'd like to see West Ham sign, but it has to be at the right price because what's our budget this year? I don't know. With Sullivan splashing the cash with around £150 million being spent last summer, there may be an element of reluctancy there from Sullivan to really put a lot of money on the table this summer. I know we won the trophy, but it was a dire Premier League campaign, so Sullivan may be a little bit apprehensive to putting the big bucks back on the table again, because we all know what he is like. So yeah, P. Gaz, thanks for joining us. Must give Mubama a good run out next season. I think it could be his time to get some game time, with question marks over both of our strikers at the moment. Antonio, we're hearing, might be leaving the club. Skamaka, who knows what's going on there. So Mubama could become a prominent fixture in that side next season. Who knows? I don't know. If we don't make some signings, if we can't get that player over the line, Mubama may have to play some Premier League games, most certainly some cup games as well. But yeah, that's it from me. Thanks for watching. Drop a like on the video and subscribe to West Ham Official. If you have enjoyed today's lunchtime news show, I will join you very soon for some more news. I'm sure there'll be some Declan Rice updates very, very soon, but at the moment it's all staying very quiet. But yeah, West Ham, we're not making any signings. We're not letting anyone go at the moment. But yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for everyone commenting in the chat, and we'll see you soon right here on West Ham Official. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.